Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Tonight, tensions remain high in Burundi as police beat and fired tear gas at protesters who were demanding President Pierre Nkurunziza reverse a decision to run for a third term in office. Tuesday's march was again in defiance of government threats of a crackdown and demonstrations. Hundreds of protesters marched through Burundi's capital, Bujumbura, denouncing the president in a demonstration that started peacefully but became violent later in the day. The march snaked through the capital's suburb of Nyakabiga, a flashpoint during 3 weeks of unrest that have triggered fears of another bout of ethnic fighting in Africa's Great Lakes region. Protesters say despite the government's threats and actions, they will not give up.
They are playing games with us. Even the coup d'etat was a joke. They are playing games and we can see right through him and will not allow it. We'll continue to protest until the day he accepts to step away from the elections. We'll continue even though they want to finish our grandchildren. We'll continue until the last generation. We will fight.
Now, the political unrest in Burundi has created a humanitarian crisis in the Great Lakes region. Aid agencies say up to 100,000 Burundian refugees, mostly women and children, have escaped to Tanzania, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. More than 70,000 Burundian refugees have already arrived in Tanzania, fleeing the internal violence in their homeland. The refugees have expressed concern on the lack of food and sanitation in the refugee camp where they are seeking safety. At Tanzania's Lake Tanganyika Stadium, an estimated 50,000 refugees are sleeping on the ground, waiting to be registered and moved to the main camp in Kigoma. Conditions in the makeshift camp are dire, with families forced to sleep on the dirt, plastic sheets and tarpaulins providing their only protection from the elements.
We arrived last night and we still don't have anything to eat. Our children don't have anything to eat. They don't have anywhere to sleep, and there's lack of sanitation here. It's very dirty. All we are asking is to at least be given buckets so we can fetch some water, to have cooking pots so we can cook something to eat, or at the very least, porridge for the children.
For Yorambe Nkongerero, fleeing violence is nothing new, but each time it gets harder.
When you look at it, some of us have been on the move since 1972. Then again in 1993, and now again. We have always been fleeing. We've always been refugees. How can we now go back to Burundi? What kind of life would we have? If only I could find somewhere else to live, I would not hesitate one bit.
In nearby Kagunga, 7 people have died since the evacuees started arriving, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. On Monday, Tanzanian authorities confirmed an outbreak of cholera, suggesting the death toll could rise. Health workers at the camp say the situation is complex.
Right now, we are an estimated around about 64,000 Burundians who have fled from Burundi in the recent days. And they are distributed in different points. There are a number of them at the border area and a number of them at an entry point called Kagunga. And also we have a number of them here at the transit site and in a camp that we have where we are eventually taking the refugees. It's called Nyarugusu camp.
Over 2,000 people are arriving by boat at Kagunga each day, more than the ferry can handle. Maina says agencies on the ground are working together to make sure all who arrive are cared for.
Right now the main challenge is to make sure they get from the border point, where the challenge of the conditions there such that it's a remote area, it's difficult to set up adequate facilities there.
Well, up for more on the growing humanitarian crisis in the Great Lakes region, Teresa Ongaro, the UNHCR spokesperson, joins us by phone from Nairobi, Kenya. Ms. Ongaro, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, this is a crisis that is turning to be bigger than perhaps anybody thought initially. Tell us what you're experiencing with people going to multiple countries at the same time.
Initially, the movement was mostly to Rwanda, which now has 27,000 refugees, and to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And then over the past 10 days or so, we started seeing people in Tanzania, initially on a very small scale of about 3,000. And then in the last 10 days or so, it swelled up to over 60,000, as you've indicated. Now, they mostly gathered in Kagunga village, which is on a point in Lake Tanganyika that juts into the lake, and the only way across is by boat. This small village normally has about 12,000 inhabitants, and they've been overrun by the 50,000 plus refugees who are now huddled in this small space, waiting for assistance to cross onto the mainland.
Now, Ms. Ongaro, how is it that they have not been able to get the necessary basic needs?
As I say, it's a very small space on Kagunga village where the people are, and the only way to assist them practically was to move them off that village onto the mainland in Tanzania, where the government has provided land at Nyarugusu for the establishment of a camp, and even more land should be required. Now, we've only been able to move about 1,000 a day initially, and we've doubled that to over 2,000 now in the last week or so. So we're moving as fast as we can. Yesterday also we had the first movement on foot, whereby 36 asylum seekers, all men, successfully walked from Kagunga overland onto the mainland on Tanzania. So our priority is to try to decongest Kagunga, to move people as fast as we can, but obviously with the limitations of the boat capacity, it is taking time.
Well, we'll continue monitoring the situation there. Thanks a lot, Ms. Ongaro. Teresa Ongaro is UNHCR spokesperson for the Great Lakes region and the East African region.